A single choice shattered her world, a betrayal wrapped in silk and whispers. Cast aside for someone younger, she was expected to disappear quietly into the shadows. But the night he replaced her was the same night something fierce awakened within her. Now, a secret waits at the edge of revelation, a past wound threatens to rise, and her next step will define whether she falls or forces the entire city to speak her name in awe. Before we begin, tell me, from where are you listening tonight? And what do you love most about period romances filled with heartbreak, dignity, and breathtaking triumph? In the glittering haze of a New York ballroom, where crystal chandeliers dripped light like molten gold, Amelia Whittaker stood frozen. The air hummed with the rustle of silk gowns and the low murmur of the elite. She was 32, her chestnut hair pinned in elegant coils beneath a feathered hat, her emerald gown hugging the curves time had softened but not dimmed. Once this world had been hers. Wife to Elias Thorne, the iron-fisted tycoon whose railroads snaked across the continent like veins of steel. But tonight, whispers slithered through the crowd like smoke. Elias had traded her for a younger woman, 24-year-old Lila Beaumont, with her porcelain skin and laughter like tinkling bells, clung to his arm. Amelia's heart twisted as she watched them from the shadowed alcove. Elias's eyes, once soft for her alone, now gleamed with fresh conquest. He leaned close to Lila, murmuring promises that should have been Amelia's. The betrayal stung deeper than any knife. After 12 years of marriage, of standing by him through scandals and fortunes built on ruthless deals, he had cast her aside like yesterday's stock ledger. She clutched the lace edge of her sleeve, fighting the burn of tears. How had it come to this? Their love had ignited in the dusty chaos of Pittsburgh steel mills, where Elias, an ambitious clerk with calloused hands and dreams bigger than the Alleghenies, had first noticed her. Amelia, daughter of a modest seamstress, had been mending uniforms for workers when his gaze locked on hers. "You're the spark in this forge," he had said, his voice rough with coal dust. They married in a simple chapel, vowing to conquer the world together. She managed his ledgers by candlelight, soothed his rages after brutal boardroom battles, bore him 2 sons who now slept in boarding schools far away. But success had poisoned him. The Gilded Age's excesses, opulent parties, mistresses veiled as business associates, had eroded their bond. Elias grew distant, his touches fleeting, his nights unaccounted for. Whispers of Lila began months ago, a debutante from Boston's old money, her family eager to ally with Thorne's empire. Amelia had ignored them, clinging to hope. Until tonight's invitation arrived, a cruel formality to his new chapter. The orchestra struck up a waltz, and the crowd swirled. Elias led Lila to the floor, her hand delicate in his. Amelia's chest tightened. She could flee, retreat to his mansion on Fifth Avenue, dissolve into quiet despair. Or she could fight. A fire kindled in her belly, born of years of swallowed pride. She was no wilting flower. She had learned the rail's secrets, the art of negotiation in smoke-filled rooms. Why should she fade while he paraded his folly? Slipping through the throng, Amelia approached a cluster of matrons, their fans fluttering like wary birds. "Mrs. Whittaker," one cooed, eyes darting to Elias. "Such a pity." "Pity." The word ignited her. "Pity?" Amelia replied, her voice steady as steel. "No, ladies, this is opportunity." Heads turned. She straightened, chin lifted. In that moment, the hook sank deep. Amelia would not break. She would rise, forge her own path through this glittering jungle, and make New York echo her name. But as the music swelled, Elias caught her eye across the room. His smile faltered, a flicker of regret. Or was it fear? Lila giggled, oblivious. Amelia turned away, heart pounding. What secrets did she hold that could topple his throne? The night was young, and her war had just begun. The ballroom's warmth pressed in, But Amelia felt a chill. She needed allies, a plan. Tomorrow she would visit the family lawyer, claim her share of the fortune she had helped build. No courts for scandal. Discretion was the elite's currency. Yet doubt gnawed. Elias's lawyers were sharks. They would devour her claims. Still, she stepped into the cool night air outside, the carriage waiting like a faithful steed. "Home," she told the driver. But home was a battlefield now. In the carriage's sway, memories flooded. Their first dance under gas lamps in a Philadelphia hall, his hand warm on her waist. "I'll give you the world, Amelia," he promised. She had believed him. Now the world mocked her. But resilience stirred. She was Amelia Whittaker, mother, survivor. Lila might have youth, but Amelia had wisdom and wrath. Arriving at the mansion, servants averted eyes. The butler, old Hargrove, took her wrap. "Ma'am, Mr. Thorne sends regrets." "Regrets," she laughed bitterly, ascending the grand staircase. In her chambers, she lit a single candle, its flame dancing shadows on velvet drapes. She pulled a hidden ledger from a drawer, her private records of Elias's dealings, notes on shady land grabs and bribed officials. Not enough for ruin, but a start. Sleep evaded her. Dawn crept in, painting the Hudson River visible from her window in hues of rose. New York awoke, its spires piercing the sky like ambitions. Amelia rose, dressing in a simple wool day dress, practical for the battles ahead. She would consult Eleanor, her sharp-tongued cousin, a widow who ran a small import business. Together, they could scheme, but as she descended, a letter waited on the silver tray. Elias's seal. Her fingers trembled opening it. "Dearest Amelia," it began, "this change is for the best. I provide for you generously. Stay discreet." Generously. As if she were a discarded pet. Rage boiled. She crumpled it, tossing it into the fire grate. The city called. Amelia stepped out, the streets alive with vendors hawking newspapers, horses clopping on cobblestones. She hailed a hansom cab to Eleanor's shop in the garment district. There, amid bolts of fabric and the chatter of seamstresses, she poured out her tale. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "That snake! But you're no victim, cousin. Use your wits. The women's clubs are forming. Leverage that." Hope flickered. Amelia nodded. A plan forming. She would invest her settlement wisely, perhaps in textiles or real estate, build her own legacy. Elias would rue the day he underestimated her, yet as the day waned, a shadow loomed. A messenger arrived at Eleanor's door. "Mrs. Whittaker." "Mr. Thorne requests a private meeting. Tonight." Her pulse raced. Confrontation or trap? The choice loomed, heavy as the gathering dusk. Word count, 872. The cab rattled over the uneven cobblestones of lower Manhattan, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows from the towering warehouses. Amelia gripped the leather strap, her mind a whirlwind. Elias's summons burned in her pocket like a live coal. A private meeting at his club, the exclusive Knickerbocker on Fifth Avenue. What game was he playing? Mercy, or a velvet-gloved threat to silence her? She arrived at Eleanor's shop just as the seamstresses packed away their needles. The air smelled of fresh linen and dye, a comforting contrast to the ballroom's cloying perfume. Eleanor Voss, 40 and fierce, with silver streaks in her auburn hair and a limp from a childhood accident, looked up from her ledger. Her wool skirt, practical and high-necked, spoke of a woman who brooked no nonsense. "Cousin," Eleanor said, pulling Amelia into a hug that smelled of lavender soap. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Sit. Tea." Amelia sank onto a stool amid bolts of indigo calico. Words tumbled out. The letter, the meeting, the ledger hidden away. Eleanor's brow furrowed, her green eyes sharp as she poured steaming water over loose leaves. That man always was a fox in gentleman's clothing. 12 years, And he discards you like a worn glove? No, you'll not go alone tonight. They talked for hours, the shop emptying around them. Eleanor revealed her own scars. Widowed young when her husband, a ship captain, vanished at sea, she had clawed her way into imports, trading silks from China and cottons from the south. Men like Elias thrive on isolation, she said. We build our own circle. There's a women's auxiliary forming, daughters of the revolution they call it, influential widows, reformers. Join us, network, your name still carries weight. Amelia nodded, warmth spreading through her chill. For the first time since the ballroom, she felt seen, not as a cast-off wife, but as a force. They pored over the ledger by gaslight, Eleanor's finger tracing Elias's scribbled notes on railroad expansions. Shady deals with Tammany Hall, she murmured. Bribes for land rights in the West. If leaked discreetly, it could dent his reputation without dragging you into the mud. Dusk fell as they parted. Wear your armor, Eleanor advised, pressing a small pearl brooch into Amelia's hand, a family heirloom, symbol of unyielding grace. And remember, you're Whitaker by birth. Thorn was just a chapter. The Knickerbocker loomed like a fortress, its marble facade glowing under street lamps, fueled by natural gas. Liveried doormen nodded Amelia through, their eyes flickering with curiosity. Whispers followed her up the grand staircase, where polished brass rails gleamed. The private parlour was a den of oak panelling and leather armchairs, cigar smoke curling toward frescoed ceilings. Elias waited alone, a decanter of brandy on the side table. At 45, he cut a commanding figure in his tailored frock coat, his dark hair slicked back, a gold watch chain glinting across his vest. But lines etched his face deeper than she remembered, shadows under his eyes. He rose as she entered, gesturing to a seat. "Amelia, you came!" She perched on the edge of the chair, hands folded in her lap, the pearl brooch pinning her shawl. "Your note left little choice. What do you want, Elias, to gloat?" He poured 2 glasses, sliding one toward her. She ignored it. "No gloating. This transition pains me. Lila is youth, vitality. Our life grew stale, predictable, but I honor what we built." His voice softened, an echo of the man who once courted her with wildflowers from the mill yards. "I've settled $10,000 on you annually. The brownstone on Gramercy Park is yours. The boys will visit summers." 10,000, a fortune to most, a pittance to his empire. Amelia's pulse thrummed. "Stale? You mean I no longer amuse you? After I balanced your books through bankruptcies, nursed you through fevers, raised our sons while you chased steel dreams." Her voice rose, steady but laced with fire. "Lila's family brings Boston banks. That's the trade, isn't it? Not love." Elias flinched, rubbing his temple. "Business and heart entwine. You know that. But stay quiet, Amelia. Scandals sink ships, for the boys' sake." The boys. Henry, 12, with his father's stubborn jaw. Little Theodore, 8, all wide-eyed curiosity. Sent to Groton for proper education. But really, to shield them from the fracture. Amelia's throat tightened. "I'll take what's mine, the settlement you owe from our marriage contract, and access to the boys without your shadows." He leaned forward, eyes searching hers. For a moment, regret flickered, real, raw. "You're still beautiful, you know, fierce. That's what drew me first." His hand reached for hers, but she pulled back, the touch electric with old memories. Dances in hidden gardens, whispers under starry skies, but that Elias was gone, replaced by this polished predator. "Don't," she said softly. "This ends cleanly, or not at all." He sighed, signaling the end. As she rose, he added, "One more thing. Lila's father, Beaumont, eyes my western lines. Alliance strengthens us all. Cross me, and it unravels. For everyone." Threat veiled as advice. Amelia swept out, the heavy door clicking shut behind her. The night air bit sharp as she stepped onto the avenue, carriages whirring past like mechanical beasts. Eleanor waited in a hired hackney as planned. "Well?" her cousin asked. "A cage of gold," Amelia replied, climbing in, "but he fears something. I saw it." They rode in silence toward Gramercy, the city lights blurring. At the brownstone, a modest haven compared to the mansion's sprawl, Amelia bid Eleanor good night. Inside, the housekeeper had left a fire crackling. She warmed her hands, staring into the flames. The ledger called from her valise, secrets that could free her, but as she undressed, a soft knock echoed from the servants' entrance. Hargrove, the butler, slipped in, face pale. "Ma'am, forgive the hour. A package from Mr. Thorne's office. Delivered discreetly." Amelia's heart skipped. She took the small velvet box, opening it to find a locket, hers, from their wedding day, engraved with their initials. Inside, a folded note, "Keep it, or use it." Use it? A cipher? A bribe? Dawn would bring decisions. Allies to rally, investments to scout. But tonight, doubt crept in. Elias's touch lingered like a ghost. Could she truly sever the past, or would it pull her under? The clock struck midnight. Outside, a figure lingered in the shadows across the street. A watcher, paranoia, or peril? Amelia bolted the door, resolve hardening. Her eyes had enemies now, and secrets worth killing for. The morning light filtered through the lace curtains of the Gramercy brownstone, casting delicate patterns on the polished oak floors. Amelia hadn't slept. The locket lay open on her vanity, its gold chain coiled like a serpent. Keep it, or use it. Elias's words taunted her, the script sharp and familiar. Inside the locket, their wedding portrait miniature stared back. Tiny faces frozen in youthful bliss, painted by a traveling artist from Philadelphia. She snapped it shut, the click echoing her resolve. No more ghosts. Today she would act. Dressing in a high-collared bodice of navy serge over a full skirt, practical for the city's bustle, Amelia pinned the pearl brooch from Eleanor to her lapel. It felt like armor. Downstairs, the housekeeper, Mrs. Finley, a stout woman in her 50s with flour-dusted apron, set out porridge and fresh rolls. "Slept poorly, ma'am?" she asked, eyes kind but probing. "Like the dead," Amelia lied, forcing a smile. She ate quickly, mind racing. The watcher from last night, shadows playing tricks or Elias's spies. Paranoia wouldn't serve her. She needed facts, allies. A note to Eleanor first, then the lawyer's office on Wall Street. Her marriage contract entitled her to more than scraps. A third of the joint assets, including shares in the railroad ventures she'd helped finance with her own modest inheritance. Stepping out, the autumn air nipped at her cheeks, carrying scents of coal smoke and baking bread from nearby vendors. Carriages clattered along the avenue, newsboys hawking headlines about stock fluctuations and labor strikes. Amelia walked briskly to the post office, dropping her letter to Eleanor. "Meet at noon, the tea room on Broadway," she'd written. "We plot my future." The lawyer, Mr. Percival Grant, occupied a dim office stacked with leather-bound tomes and inkwells. At 58, with wire-rimmed spectacles and a perpetual frown, he greeted her with a firm handshake. "Mrs. Whittaker, or should I say soon-to-be Mrs. Thorne no more. Elias consulted me yesterday. This divorce, messy." Amelia sat across the massive desk, her gloved hands steady. "Messy for him, Mr. Grant. I've kept his ledgers. I know the irregularities, the inflated contracts with suppliers, the kickbacks from those Chicago tracks. Not accusations, mind you, just leverage for a fair settlement." Grant's eyes widened behind his glasses. He steepled his fingers, the room silent, save for the tick of a mantel clock. "Careful, madam. Elias is connected. Tammany men owe him favors, but yes, the contract is ironclad. 20,000 up front, plus 5% of annual dividends from the eastern lines. The boy's trust remains untouched." They haggled for an hour, Amelia's voice calm, her arguments honed by years at Elias's side. Grant conceded points, scribbling amendments. As she left with papers in hand, a spark of triumph warmed her. This was power. Quiet, calculated. Noon found her at the tea room, a cozy nook with velvet banquettes and silver teapots. Eleanor arrived flushed from the streets, her cane tapping rhythmically. "Cousin, you look fierce. Spill it." Over Darjeeling and cucumber sandwiches, Amelia recounted the meeting. Eleanor's laughter rang out, drawing glances from nearby ladies in feathered bonnets. 20,000. He'll choke on it. But don't stop there. My contact at the Women's Auxiliary, Mrs. Langford, hosts a salon tomorrow. Reformers, investors, pitch your ideas, textiles, or perhaps a boarding house for working women. New York's booming. Women like us can carve niches. Amelia sipped her tea, the steam curling like possibilities. Boarding house, and yes, safe havens, not the squalor of tenements. I'd need capital, though. Eleanor's eyes gleamed. Start small, use the settlement. And there's a gentleman, widower, investor in real estate, Theodore Hale. Quiet type but fair. Met him at a charity ball. He admires strong women. The name stirred nothing yet, but Amelia filed it away. Romance, not now. Survival first. As they parted, Eleanor squeezed her arm. You're rising, Amelia. Remember that. Afternoon brought unexpected ripples. At the brownstone, a carriage waited, sleek, black, with the thorn crest discreetly etched. Out stepped Lila Beaumont, her youthful face framed by a wide-brimmed hat, trimmed in ostrich plumes. At 24, she was a vision in pale pink taffeta, corseted to accentuate her slender waist. But her eyes held uncertainty, not triumph. Mrs. Whittaker. Lila's voice trembled, Boston accent crisp. May I come in? Please, it's urgent. Amelia hesitated, then nodded. In the parlor, with its horsehair settee and framed etchings of Hudson River scenes, they sat. Mrs. Finley served lemonades, withdrawing discreetly. I know what this looks like, Lila began, twisting her handkerchief. Elias, he promised me the stars. But last night, after you left the club, he paced like a caged lion, muttered about regrets, about you. Amelia's grip tightened on her glass. Jealousy? No, curiosity. And why tell me this, Miss Beaumont? To ease your conscience. Lila flushed. Partly, but also fear. His temper, I've seen flashes, and whispers of debts, risky ventures in the Dakotas. My father warned me, but love blinds. She leaned forward, voice dropping. He keeps odd company. Men from the docks, rough types. If you're planning something, be wary, for all our sakes. The words hung heavy. Alley or pawn? Amelia studied her, innocent eyes but a spine beneath. Thank you, but my path is my own. Guard yourself, Lila. Youth fades, wisdom endures. Lila rose, smoothing her skirts. I hope you find peace. She left, the door clicking softly. Alone, Amelia pondered. Elias unraveling. It fit the ledger's hints, overextended loans, gambles on silver mines. But Lila's visit unnerved her. A ploy. Evening descended, gas lamps flickering to life along the streets. Amelia dined alone, the locket mocking from the table. She opened it again, tracing the engraving. Use it. Perhaps as collateral or a signal to old contacts. A knock shattered the quiet. Mrs. Finley ushered in a stranger, a tall man in his late 30s, broad-shouldered in a wool overcoat, his face weathered by outdoor work yet refined, with sandy hair and clear blue eyes. Mrs. Whittaker, Theodore Hale. Eleanor sent me, said you might need an ear for business. Amelia stood, surprise mingling with intrigue. He removed his hat, manners impeccable. Please, sit. Tea? As they talked, properties in the garment district, rising rents for female workers, his voice was steady, warm. No pity, just respect. Eleanor's right. You're building something real. I'd invest if you're inclined. Their eyes met, a spark unspoken. Not love, not yet, but possibility. Laughter escaped her at his dry jest about greedy landlords, lightening the weight on her chest. Midnight neared when he left, promising to return with figures. Amelia bolted the door, but sleep came easier. Allies multiplied. Yet, peering from the window, she spotted movement, a silhouette across the way vanishing into fog. Elias's web tightened, but so did hers. Tomorrow, the salon. And perhaps a deeper alliance with this hail. The city whispered of change, and Amelia would make it roar her name. Word count, 872. The morning fog clung to the Gramercy brownstone like a reluctant veil, muting the clatter of milk wagons on the street below. Amelia rose early, her limbs heavy from fragmented dreams of shadowed figures and Elias's mocking smile. The locket rested on her nightstand, a silent sentinel. She dressed with care, a fitted jacket of charcoal wool over a cream blouse, the skirt layered for the chill winds sweeping down from the Hudson. The pearl brooch gleamed at her throat, Eleanor's talisman against the day's uncertainties. Mrs. Finlay pressed a warm scone into her hand as she descended. "The salon's at Mrs. Langford's, ma'am. Mind the crowds. The elevated's running late again." Amelia nodded, grateful for the woman's quiet loyalty. Stepping out, she hailed a hansom cab, the horse's breath puffing white in the crisp air. The ride to the Upper East Side wound through avenues alive with delivery boys on bicycles and ladies in muffs hurrying to market. New York pulsed with its relentless rhythm, oblivious to one woman's quiet revolution. Mrs. Langford's brownstone was a bastion of reformist elegance, its parlour transformed into a salon of potted ferns and damask settees. Gas mantles cast a soft glow, illuminating 24 women. Widows in bombazine, spinsters with purposeful gazes, a few bold married ones defying convention. Mrs. Langford, a stout matron of 60 with iron-grey curls and a brooch shaped like a suffrage rose, greeted Amelia at the door. "Mrs. Whittaker, Eleanor's spoken of you. Come join the circle, we're discussing ventures for our sex." Amelia slipped into a seat near the hearth, where a fire crackled against the damp. The talk swirled around suffrage petitions and temperance leagues, but soon veered to economics. "Tenements crush the spirit," one speaker declared, her voice quivering. "We need safe boarding houses, clean, affordable, for factory girls and clerks." Murmurs of agreement rippled. Amelia's pulse quickened. This was her opening. When her turn came, she rose, hands steady. "Ladies, I've seen the ledgers of empires built on women's labour. My own path diverges now, but with capital and will we can erect havens, not charity, investments, profits shared among us." Heads nodded, eyes lit with interest. Mrs. Langford leaned in. "Details, dear? Partners?" Before Amelia could reply, the door opened with a chime. Theodore Hale entered, hat in hand, his overcoat shedding droplets from the mist outside. Conversations hushed. He scanned the room, his blue eyes finding hers with unerring warmth. "Mrs. Langford invited me as a potential backer," he explained, taking a seat nearby. "Real estate's my trade, warehouses, tenements, but this aligns." The group buzzed as he sketched plans on a notepad. Modest buildings in Chelsea, with communal kitchens and locked doors for safety. Amelia added her thoughts. Ventilation from the newfangled designs in Harper's Bazaar, rents scaled to wages. Their words wove together seamlessly, his steady baritone complementing her measured tone. A glance passed between them, lingering a fraction too long. His smile, faint but genuine, stirred something dormant in her, a flicker of shared purpose, perhaps more. By midday, pledges flowed. 500 from Mrs. Langford, 2 from a textile heiress. Theodore committed 1,000, his hand brushing hers as he passed a pledge card. "Partners." Then he murmured, voice low amid the chatter. Partners, she echoed, the word tasting of possibility. No grand declarations, just the quiet thrill of alliance. As the salon broke, he offered to escort her home. They walked arm in arm along the avenue, the fog lifting to reveal spires piercing the blue sky. Eleanor's high praise wasn't exaggerated, he said, dodging a puddle. You're a force, Amelia. Widowed 5 years myself, lost my Clara to the fever. I've learned isolation's the true killer. She glanced at him, noting the fine lines of grief around his eyes, the way his shoulders bore the weight without complaint. Strength shared lightens the load, Mr. Hale. A light rain began, and he unfurled his umbrella, sheltering them both. Their steps synced, conversation turning to lighter matters, the absurdity of a recent opera where the tenor forgot his lines. Laughter bubbled from her, unexpected and freeing. At the brownstone he bowed slightly. Tomorrow, the City Hall records, for property searches. She nodded, watching him go, the umbrella bobbing into the crowd. Inside, Mrs. Finley beamed. A fine gentleman, that one. Vu, but euphoria soured as afternoon shadows lengthened. A boy delivered a telegram. Meet at the old mill site. Dusk. Urgent. E. Elias's initials scrawled at the bottom. Her stomach knotted. The Pittsburgh mill where their love began, now a derelict shell on the city's edge. Trap or olive branch? She confided in Eleanor via hurried note, then dressed warmly, a hooded cape over her ensemble. The cab ride blurred the miles, the elevated train's rumble echoing her unease. Dusk painted the mill in bruised purples, its skeletal frames looming like forgotten giants. Weeds choked the rail spurs. The air reeked of rust and rain-soaked earth. Elias emerged from the gloom, alone, his greatcoat flapping in the wind. No entourage, just the man she'd married. "Amelia," he called, voice carrying over the wind. "Thank you for coming." She approached warily, skirts snagging on brambles. "What game, Elias? Sentinels last night, now this." He raked a hand through his hair, dishevelled for once. "No game, Lila. She's with child. Already. The alliance hastens." His eyes searched hers, raw. "I didn't plan it, but it binds me. And you, your moves at the salon reached my ears. Boarding houses? With Hale? Jealousy or fear?" Amelia's heart raced. "My life now. Yours was a gift I return." He stepped closer, the scent of his tobacco familiar, haunting. "We built this from nothing. Don't unravel it. The boys need stability." His hand grazed her arm, a plea in the touch. Memories surged, their first kiss here amid sparks from the forges. She pulled away. "Stability you shattered, leave me be." As she turned, his voice cracked. "Wait, the locket, it's a key to a safe in my office. Papers proving the Western claims are clean. Take them, leverage for your ventures." A gift? Or deeper snare? She hesitated, the wind whipping her cape. "Why?" "Because part of me still—" He trailed off, shadows hiding his face. She snatched the locket from her pocket, holding it aloft. "I'll decide." Fleeing to the cab, her mind whirled. Trust him, or burn it all. Night fell as she returned, the city lights mocking her turmoil. Theodore's card lay on the table. Tomorrow's promise. But Elias's shadow lengthened. What secrets hid in that safe, and who watched from the mill's eaves unseen? The clock ticked onward, her resolve a fragile flame. Allies grew, but so did the risks. New York whispered of triumphs yet to come, or falls unforeseen. The fog from the mill clung to Amelia's cape like a shroud as the cab jolted back toward the heart of the city. Street lamps flickered to life, their gas flames sputtering against the damp night. Elias's words echoed in her ears. Lila with child. The locket, a key to salvation or snare. Her fingers tightened around the small gold oval in her pocket, its weight both anchor and chain. Trust him? After the betrayal? No. But curiosity burned brighter than caution. The safe in his office held papers. Proof of clean claims, he said, leverage for her boarding houses, perhaps even a shield against his creeping threats. Dawn broke grey and reluctant over Gramercy Park, the leaves in the square turning to tarnished gold under the chill. Amelia hadn't slept. She paced her bedchamber, the locket open on the lace doily. The miniature portrait mocked her, Elias's young face, earnest beside her own flushed with bridal hope. Use it, he'd urged, for the boy's sake or to bind her anew. She snapped it shut, resolve hardening like cooling steel. Today she would test it, but not alone. A note to Theodore arrived by breakfast, penned in his neat script, City Hall at 10. Properties await. Hail. No mention of the mill, thank heavens. Eleanor had kept her counsel. Mrs. Finlay bustled in with coffee and toast, her round face creased with worry. You look peaked, ma'am. That telegram last night, trouble. Old echoes, Amelia replied, forcing steadiness. She dressed in a tailored walking suit of dove-grey wool, the bodice fitted but allowing ease for the day's exertions. A veiled hat shadowed her eyes, hiding the shadows beneath. The pearl brooch from Eleanor pinned firm at her collar. Stepping out, the air carried the tang of river mist and fresh newsprint. She walked to the elevated station, the screech of iron wheels a fitting clamour for her churning thoughts. Theodore waited at City Hall's granite steps, his tall frame unmistakable in a Chesterfield coat, a leather portfolio under one arm. His blue eyes lit with quiet pleasure as she approached. Mrs. Whittaker, Amelia, if I may, punctual as the tide. No probing questions, just that warm baritone, steady as a heartbeat. Theodore, she returned, the familiarity slipping easy. They ascended the echoing halls, past clerks hunched over ledgers, the air thick with ink and wax seals. In a side office, maps unrolled across a scarred table, parcels in Chelsea, vacant lots ripe for building. These tenements, he pointed, finger tracing a block near the garment factories, overcrowded, but the land sound, $50 a lot, with city water access. Your vision, safe rooms, laundries, fits perfect. Amelia leaned in, their shoulders brushing. The contact sent a subtle warmth through her, unspoken, like sunlight piercing clouds. She traced the lines herself, ideas flowing. Add iron grates on windows, not bars, protection without prison feel. And a matron on site, like a guardian. Their heads bent close, voices overlapping in easy rhythm. For a moment, the mill's gloom receded, replaced by this shared spark. His glance held hers, lingering with a depth that stirred her pulse. Admiration, yes, but something tender beneath. By noon, they'd secured options, his signature beside hers on preliminary bids. Emerging into the watery sun, Theodore hailed a cab. Lunch? A chop house nearby, nothing fancy, but the oysters are fresh from the bay. She nodded, surprise mingling with delight. The restaurant was a modest affair, oak-panelled with white linens, the hum of brokers sealing deals over steaks. They settled in a corner booth, the waiter pouring water from a silver ewer. As platters arrived, oysters on ice, crusty bread, conversation turned personal, halting at first. Clara loved the markets here, Theodore said, shucking a shell with practiced ease. Taught me to haggle with fishmongers. 5 years gone, and the city's changed little. Grief shadowed his features, but he met her eyes without flinching. Amelia sipped her lemonade, the tartness grounding her. Loss reshapes us, Elias. Our paths diverged, but the boys anchor me. Henry writes of school pranks. Theodore Jr. dreams of engines. She paused, the locket heavy in her mind. Dare she share? Not yet. Instead she smiled faintly. Your support today, it means more than bids on paper. His hand covered hers briefly across the table, a gesture of solidarity, warm and fleeting. Strength recognizes strength. We're building more than walls, Amelia. The touch lingered in her senses, a quiet promise amid the clink of silverware. Laughter followed, light as champagne bubbles, when he recounted a bungled investment in patent medicines. Tonic for eternal youth. Turned out it was just dyed seltzer. The meal ended too soon, but resolve carried her homeward alone, the portfolio clutched like a talisman. At the brownstone, Mrs. Finley met her with tea and tidings, a parcel from the salon, fabric samples for the boarding house prototypes. But as Amelia sorted them in the parlour, the locket called. Elias's office, risky, but the hour was ripe. He'd be at board meetings till dusk. She slipped out under cover of afternoon crowds, the elevated rattling her north to the financial district. The Thorn building loomed, a Beaux-Arts behemoth of stone and iron, its lobby buzzing with telegraph boys and suited men. Heart-pounding, she nodded to the clerk, a familiar face from ledger days. Mr. Thorn's desk. He left instructions. The locket flashed discreetly, worked its subtle magic. Eyes widened, and she was waved up. The office was a sanctum of mahogany and maps, Elias's scent, leather and bay rum hanging heavy. The safe squatted in the corner, brass dial gleaming. Fingers trembling, she fitted the locket's hidden edge into a concealed slot. A click, and it yielded. Inside, bundles of papers, deeds to Western tracts, clean as promised, notarized and untainted. But deeper, a ledger, not hers, but his private one. Skimming frantic lines, her breath caught. Debts mounted, loans from shadowy lenders, bets on failing mines. Lila's father, Beaumont, pulling strings. And a notation, A.W. threat. Silence or expose. Amelia's blood ran cold. Threat? She was the target. Pocketing samples, enough to bolster her claims without theft. She relocked the safe, pulse thundering. Escape was swift, down back stairs to avoid prying eyes. Evening found her with Eleanor at the tea room, the air thick with scone steam. "He gave you this," Eleanor hissed, scanning the pilfered pages over spectacles. "Foolish man. Use it wisely. Leverage with grant for more settlement or bait for investors. But watch your back. Those debts smell of desperation." Amelia nodded, the pearl brooch cool against her skin. Theodore's card lay beside the papers, a counterpoint of hope. A note to him, "Progress today. Dinner tomorrow?" Sent, she leaned back, the city's hum outside a symphony of possibility. But as night deepened, a carriage idled across the street, black, unmarked. The watcher returned. Elias's desperation, or Beaumont's. She drew the curtains, the locket now a double-edged blade. Allies fortified her, Theodore's warmth a budding light, yet shadows lengthened, whispering of confrontations to come. New York's underbelly stirred, and Amelia's rise teetered on the knife's edge. What price for triumph? The answer loomed, urgent as the ticking clock. The carriage's silhouette vanished into the night as Amelia peered through the lace curtains, her breath fogging the glass. The locket burned in her palm, its secrets heavier than gold. Papers from Elias's safe, clean deeds she could use to secure loans for the boarding houses. But that hidden ledger page, marked with her initials as a threat, twisted like a knife. Desperation in his debts meant danger, not just for her, but for the fragile web she wove. Theodore's note lay unanswered on the side table, his invitation to dinner, a beacon she dared not ignore. Allies were her shield, isolation her ruin. Morning arrived with a crisp bite, the autumn sun slanting through Gramercy's iron fences like reluctant promises. Amelia dressed in a russet wool gown, its high neckline buttoned to her throat, the skirt pleated for modest ease. The pearl brooch caught the light, a reminder of Eleanor's unyielding faith. Mrs. Finley set out eggs and bacon, her eyes sharp. That black coach last night, ma'am, lingered too long. Shall I fetch the constable? No need, Amelia said, though her voice wavered. Constables bowed to men like Elias. She'd learned that bitter truth. Just keep the doors barred. She penned a quick reply to Theodore. Dinner accepted. 7 at Delmonico's, urgent matters to discuss. Sealed and sent with a street boy, it felt like casting a line into uncertain waters. The day demanded action. She met Eleanor at the import shop, the air thick with the scent of unrolled silks from Canton. Bolts of azure and crimson cascaded across counters, seamstresses chattering in Yiddish accents. Eleanor limped forward, her cane thumping like a war drum. Those papers! Show me again. They huddled in the back room, gas jet flickering shadows on the ledger copy Amelia had sketched by candlelight. Debts to loan sharks in the 5 points, Eleanor murmured, her finger jabbing the ink. Beaumont's pulling Elias's strings, but if exposed, the banks call everything due, your boarding houses. Use the clean deeds as collateral. Grant can file quietly. Amelia nodded, her mind racing. And the threat notation? He sees me as the enemy now. Eleanor's green eyes hardened. Then strike first. The women's auxiliary meets tonight. Pitch the houses there. Theodore's your edge. His name opens doors. Noon brought Theodore to the brownstone, punctual as clockwork. He arrived on foot, his broad frame filling the doorway, a bouquet of hothouse chrysanthemums in hand. Simple, not flashy, their petals like flames against the grey day. For luck, he said, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners. No pity in his gaze, just that steady warmth that made her chest loosen. Thank you, she replied, arranging them in a vase of cut glass. In the parlour, over sherry poured from a crystal decanter, she shared fragments, the deeds, the vague threats omitting the locket's betrayal. His brow furrowed, calloused fingers drumming the armrest. Risky waters, Amelia. My warehouses border those Chelsea lots. I've heard whispers of Tammanian forces shaking down builders, but together. He paused, his hand hovering near hers on the settee, not quite touching. The air hummed with unspoken tension, his nearness stirring memories of touches long faded, gentle, not possessive. Together, she echoed, the word a bridge. They pored over maps he'd brought, his voice low and assured, as he outlined expansions, shared parlours for reading circles, perhaps even classes in bookkeeping for the residents. Laughter slipped in when he mimicked a pompous alderman's bluster from a recent council meeting, as if women can't tally a ledger without fainting. Her smile came easy, genuine, chasing shadows from her eyes. For a moment, Elias's ghost receded, replaced by this man's quiet strength. His widowed years had carved empathy into him, not bitterness, a rarity in this cutthroat city. By afternoon's end, plans solidified, bids filed by week's close, investors courted at the auxiliary. As he rose to leave, Theodore's gaze held hers, deeper now. This dinner, not just business, I hope. His voice dropped, roughened by emotion. She met it squarely, heart quickening. Nor for me. The door closed softly behind him, leaving warmth in its wake. Evening draped the city in velvet dusk, gas lamps blooming like fireflies along Broadway. Delmonico's glowed with opulence, marble floors, tuxedoed waiters gliding with silver trays. Amelia arrived in a sapphire silk gown, its bustle modest, lace cuffs hiding trembling hands. Theodore waited at a corner table, rising with a bow, his tuxedo tailored to his frame. You outshine the chandeliers, he murmured, pulling out her chair. Over lobster bisque and filet mignon, conversation flowed like fine claret. He spoke of his Clara, her laugh in Central Park, the void her fever left. Amelia shared glimpses of her sons, Henry's sketches of locomotives, little Theodore's fascination with birds. They ground me, she said, fork pausing mid-air. Elias! He drifted into ambition's fog. Theodore's eyes softened. Ambition without heart is hollow. You've got both, Amelia. It's rare. Their knees brushed under the tablecloth, accidental yet electric, a silent promise building slow, like embers to flame. No rushed confessions, just glances that lingered, words laced with care. As dessert arrived, chocolate gâteau dusted with sugar, he reached across, his fingers grazing hers deliberately. Whatever shadows follow you, face them with me. She squeezed back, the touch anchoring her. Hope flickered bright against the encroaching night, but as they stepped into the cool avenue, a newsboy's cry pierced the air. "Extra! Railroad tycoon in scandal! Thorn lines probed!" Amelia froze, Theodore's arms steadying her. Elias's empire cracking, or her doing, unwittingly? The headline blurred in the lamplight, but the implication struck like thunder. Back at the brownstone, alone with the paper, details emerged. Anonymous tips to the press about irregular land deals. Her pilfered pages? No, someone else's hand. Elias's desperation boiling over, or Beaumont turning the screw. A knock rattled the door. Urgent, late. Mrs. Finley peered out, then ushered in a dishevelled messenger, face pale under a cap. "From Mr. Thorne, ma'am. He demands you come. Now. The mansion. Trouble with the boys' school." Her blood iced. Henry? Little Theodore? Trap or truth? Theodore's warmth faded against rising dread. She grabbed her cape, the locket slipping into her pocket like fate's cruel jest. Into the night she went, the carriage wheels echoing her pounding heart. What waited in the shadows of the mansion? Salvation, or the fall of all she'd built? The carriage wheels hammered the cobblestones like frantic heartbeats, each jolt sending a shiver through Amelia's frame. The night swallowed the city, gas lamps casting fleeting pools of amber on rain-slicked streets. Elias's mansion loomed ahead, its iron gates ajar like a predator's maw. The messenger had vanished into the shadows after delivering his urgent plea, trouble at the boys' school. A telegram from Groton demanding immediate attention. Henry's stubborn streak. Little Theodore's mischief. Or Elias's snare, drawing her into the viper's nest. She clutched the locket in her gloved fist, its edges biting her palm. No weapon, but a reminder. Secrets cut both ways. The driver pulled up to the grand portico, where footmen in Thorne livery waited like statues. Hargrove, the old butler, hurried out, his face etched with strain under the lantern light. "Mum, Mr. Thorne's in the study. The boys, they're safe but shaken." Relief warred with suspicion in Amelia's chest. She swept past him, her cape swirling. The sapphire gown from dinner now rumpled but unyielding. The foyer echoed her footsteps, crystal sconces, flickering shadows on marble walls, lined with oil portraits. Elias's ancestors, stern judges from a bygone age. Elias paced the study, a fire roaring in the grate, casting his silhouette long and jagged. At 45, he looked haggard, his frock coat unbuttoned, tie askew, a half-empty tumbler of whiskey in hand. The room smelled of cigar ash and desperation, maps of railroad lines strewn across the desk like fallen soldiers. He turned as she entered, eyes bloodshot, locking on hers with a mix of fury and plea. "Amelia, you came! God, the press! It's unraveling everything!" She closed the door softly, leaning against it, arms crossed. "The boys? What happened?" Her voice held steady, though her pulse thrummed. He raked a hand through dishevelled hair, collapsing into a leather armchair. A prank gone wrong. Henry and Theodore sneaked out for a midnight escapade, climbed the dormitory roof, nearly tumbled. The headmaster wired me, threatening expulsion unless a parent arrives by dawn. "Lila, she's unwell, the pregnancy. I need you. For them. Pregnancy." The word hung like smoke, thickening the air. Amelia's throat tightened, visions of her sons' faces, Henry's defiant grin, little Theodore's trusting eyes, flooding her. sent away to shield them from the fracture, yet pulled back into it now. "I'll go," she said finally, chin lifting, "but not as your pawn, Elias. This changes nothing between us." He rose, closing the distance, his breath warm with spirits. "It changes everything. That headline, anonymous filth about my deals. Beaumont suspects me, thinks I'm leaking to undercut him. But it's you, isn't it? Those salon whispers, Hale sniffing around my properties." His hand shot out, gripping her wrist, not hard but insistent. The touch ignited old fires, a tangle of anger and ache. "We were partners once. Don't destroy us." She wrenched free, the locket slipping from her fingers to clatter on the Persian rug. It sprang open, the miniature portrait glinting in the firelight. Elias knelt to retrieve it, his face crumpling as he saw the tiny faces inside. "Our wedding. I kept the mate." His voice cracked, raw edges bared. For a heartbeat, the Tycoon vanished, replaced by the mill hand who'd stolen her heart amid forged sparks. "Lila's fire is fleeting. You're the foundation." Temptation whispered, "Forgive, rebuild." But memories surged. The ballroom betrayal, Lila's arm in his, the cold settlement offer. Amelia snatched the locket back, snapping it shut. "Foundation, you cracked. The boys need a mother, not your empire's rubble. I'll handle Groton alone. Dawn train." He slumped, defeated as she turned to leave. "Wait, the safe, did you?" Suspicion flickered in his eyes, but exhaustion dulled it. She said nothing, gliding out into the hall. Hargrove pressed a valise into her hands, travel necessities packed with quiet efficiency. "Safe journey, ma'am. The lads will be glad." The night air bit sharp as the carriage bore her to the station, Pennsylvania Depot, a hive of porters and steam. She boarded the express, settling into a velvet-lined compartment, the locket now a talisman against her breast. Sleep evaded her. Instead, thoughts drifted to Theodore, his steady gaze over Delmonico's candlelight, the brush of his fingers promising more than alliance. A new chapter, budding slow and true, like spring after winter's bite. Elias's plea had stirred embers, but Theodore fanned a different flame, gentle, enduring. Dawn broke over Connecticut hills as the train chugged into Groton, mist veiling the ivy-clad academy. The headmaster, a stern clergyman in black wool, met her at the gate, his mustache twitching. "Mrs. Thorne." "Whitaker, apologies. The boys are contrite." A rooftop lark, inspired by adventure tales. No real harm, but discipline demands parental oversight. Henry and little Theodore rushed from the dormitory, faces smudged but alight. Henry, 12 and gangly, hugged her fiercely, his voice muffled against her shoulder. "Mother, we didn't mean... Father wrote we'd see you summers." Little Theodore, 8 and solemn, clutched her skirt. "Is everything broken like the train we built?" Amelia knelt, drawing them close, the scent of chalk and wool grounding her. "Nothing's broken that love can't mend. Father's busy, but we're a family still." They walked the grounds, leaves crunching underfoot, sharing tales of classes and chums. For hours the world narrowed to this. Mother and sons, laughter lightening the weight. No mention of Lila, the scandal, just promises of visits, letters weekly. By afternoon the headmaster relented. No expulsion, just probation. As the train pulled away, the boys waved from the platform, Henry shouting, "Build your houses, Mother! We'll visit!" Tears pricked her eyes, but resolve burned brighter. Elias's web had nearly snared her, but she'd slipped free, stronger. Back in New York by dusk, the city thrummed with evening crowds. A telegram waited at the brownstone, Theodore's hand. "Heard of the train. Safe. Dinner tomorrow. Business and more." Her lips curved, warmth blooming. But as she entered, Mrs. Finley pressed a sealed envelope into her palm. Elias's script, "The boys, thank you, but the probe deepens. Meet me. Midnight, the old pier. alone. The locket weighed heavy. Confrontation or the unraveling of all? Shadows gathered outside. The watcher returned. Amelia bolted the door, heart racing. Allies called, but peril pressed close. Her triumph teetered. What price to claim it fully? The envelope crinkled in Amelia's fist as she stared into the fire's dying embers, the parlor clock ticking like a countdown to folly. Idleas's script looped across the page, urgent and unyielding. Midnight at the old pier alone. The boys' faces from Groton lingered in her mind, Henry's fierce hug, little Theodore's wide-eyed trust. Yet this summons reeked of manipulation. The press scandal gnawed deeper. Headlines screamed of Thorne's tangled finances, anonymous leaks eroding his iron grip. Her doing? No. But the locket's secrets could ignite the blaze. She crumpled the note, tossing it into the flames. Alone? Never again. Mrs. Finlay hovered in the doorway, shawl clutched tight. "Ma'am, it's near 10. That envelope? More shadows?" Her voice held the quiet steel of a woman who'd weathered her own storms. "Old debts calling due," Amelia replied, rising with deliberate calm. She changed into a practical ulster of dark wool, its high collar shielding her neck, sturdy boots for the pier's slick planks. The pearl brooch gleamed at her lapel, Eleanor's anchor. A glance in the mirror showed lines of resolve etching her 32 years. Chestnut hair coiled simply, emerald eyes sharp, no victim here. She penned hasty notes, one to Eleanor, warning of the meeting. Another to Theodore, vague but inviting his company at dawn for clarity amid chaos. Sealed and slipped under doors via trusted errand boys, they felt like lifelines cast into the night. The hansom cab cut through midnight's hush, hooves muffled on dew-kissed streets. The East River Pier jutted like a skeletal finger into black waters, fog rolling off the harbour in ghostly waves. Lanterns from distant ships bobbed like fireflies, the air thick with salt and tar. Amelia stepped down, paying the driver extra to wait in the shadows. Waves lapped the pilings, a rhythmic whisper underscoring her solitude. Where was Elias? Paranoia prickled. The watcher from Gramercy could lurk anywhere. Footsteps echoed from the gloom. Two figures emerging, not one. Elias, coat flapping like ragged sails, flanked by a burly man in a pea-jacket, face scarred and hooded. Not alone, then. Amelia's pulse spiked, but she held her ground, chin lifted. "You said midnight, and alone. Who's your shadow?" Elias halted paces away, his face gaunt under the faint moon. "Precautions, Amelia. The leaks, they're closing in. Beaumont's men dog me. I can't risk more." His voice cracked, the Tycoon's polish frayed. The brute shifted, hand on a concealed bulge, knife, pistol. The Gilded Age's underbelly never slept. She stepped closer, the pier creaking under her boots. Precautions or threats? "The boys are safe at Groton. Your empire's cracking from within. What do you want? My silence bought with scraps." He glanced at his companion, who melted back into fog, leaving them isolated. Elias's eyes, once commanding, now pleaded. "Not scraps, partnership. Lila's child changes nothing for us. The Western deeds you took, they're clean, yes. But the ledger. Beaumont forged those debts to control me. Help expose him. For the boys. For what we had." His hand extended, palm up, as if bridging an abyss. The gesture stirred ghosts, their mill days, hands calloused from shared labor, dreams forged in firelight. Amelia's throat tightened, the locket warm against her breast. "What we had. You traded it for her youth, her father's banks. I built beside you, balanced your rages, your ledgers. Now you beg?" Wind whipped her ulster, carrying cries of gulls. For a heartbeat, regret flickered in her, 12 years dissolving like mist. But resolve surged. "No! My path diverges. The boarding houses rise without your chains." Elias's face twisted, fury flashing. "Hail! That widower sniffing your skirts! He's no match. He'll crumble under Beaumont's gaze." The words stung, jealousy raw. He lunged forward, grasping her arm, his grip iron from years of rail-driving ambition. "Join me, or watch it all burn. Your houses, your allies." She wrenched free, the motion sharp, her voice a whip. "Touch me again, and the full ledger sings to the press. Your bribes, your shadows, all laid bare." The brute reappeared, advancing with a growl, but Elias waved him off, breathing ragged. Defeat etched his features, the man she'd loved reduced to this, hollow, haunted. "Go," she said softly, turning toward the cab's glow. "Before you lose more than gold." Fog swallowed her steps, heart-pounding triumph and sorrow. The driver whipped the horses, the pier receding like a bad dream. Back at the brownstone, dawn's first light pierced the curtains as she bolted the door. Sleep claimed her fitfully, dreams tangled with Elias's plea and Theodore's steady gaze. Morning brought Theodore, knocking precisely at 8, his frame filling the vestibule with quiet assurance. Bouquet in hand again, violets this time, their scent sweet against the chill. "Your note worried me." "Shadows?" His blue eyes searched hers, concern deepening the lines of his weathered face. She led him to the parlor, pouring coffee from the silver service, the steam curling like unspoken fears. Over scones and jam, she shared the pier's peril, the brute, Elias's desperation, Beaumont's web. Theodore listened, jaw set, his hand covering hers midway, warm and unyielding. "Foolish to go alone, but brave. We'll fortify. My solicitor for the deeds, Eleanor's networks for protection." No judgment, just alliance, his thumb tracing a gentle circle on her knuckles. The touch ignited slow warmth, not the blaze of youth, but a hearth's glow, enduring, true. By noon, plans solidified. The Chelsea lots bid won, construction to break ground in weeks. Investors from the auxiliary pledged more, whispers of Amelia's vision spreading through women's circles. Laughter lightened the air when Theodore recounted a botched warehouse deal. Flooded with Hudson silt, turned it into a skating rink for the workers' children. Her smile came easy, easing the night's ache. As he rose to leave, promising evening walks in the park, their eyes locked, a silent vow building layer by layer. "You're not alone, Amelia," he murmured, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. The gesture lingered, tender, stirring depths she'd thought sealed. Afternoon shadows brought a telegram, Eleanor's hand. "Auxiliary rally tomorrow, your triumph announced." Elias quiets, Beaumont exposed in whispers. Hope swelled, but caution tempered it. The locket, locked away now, its power hers to wield or discard. Evening fell soft, the city humming with possibility. Amelia stepped onto the stoop, Theodore waiting below, arm extended. Their stroll through Gramercy Park wove paths of fallen leaves, conversation drifting to dreams, his of stable homes for the working class, hers of havens for women like her, rising from ashes. Hands brushed, then linked, the contact electric yet restrained, a promise unfolding slow as the seasons. But as lamps kindled, a shadow detached from a lamppost, the brute from the pier, or mere illusion. Theodore's grip tightened protectively. Peril lingered, but so did light. Amelia's rise accelerated, New York's murmurs growing to a roar. Triumph beckoned, hard-won and fierce. The shadow peeled from the lamppost like a spectre uncoiling, its bulk resolving into the brute from the pier. Scarred face twisted in the lamplight, pea-jacket straining over broad shoulders. Amelia's breath caught. Theodore's hand clamping tight around hers, pulling her close. The park's paths, moments ago a haven of rustling leaves and distant carriage clatter, now felt like a trap sprung. "Stay behind me," Theodore murmured, his voice low steel, positioning his body as a shield. The brute advanced, boots thudding on gravel, a glint of metal in his fist, a knife, wicked and curved. Amelia's heart hammered, the pearl brooch digging into her palm as she gripped it like a talisman. No fleeing, this ended now. "Elias sent you?" she called, voice steady despite the chill racing her spine. The man halted, eyes narrowing under his cap's brim. "Not Thorn. Beaumont. Says you're poking where you shouldn't. Time to stop." Beaumont. The name ignited fury, ablaze against the night's damp cold. Lila's father, the Boston banker with his web of debts strangling Elias, and now her. The leaks, the watchers, all his strings pulled to crush rivals. Indignation surged, hot and righteous. This faceless puppeteer thought to bury her rise before it bloomed. Theodore stepped forward, shoulders squared, his free hand balling into a fist. "Back off, or the constables hear of Beaumont's thugs terrorizing ladies in Gramercy." The brute sneered, lunging with a grunt, blade flashing. Theodore dodged, shoving Amelia aside with a protective sweep. She stumbled but caught herself, snatching a fallen branch from the path, gnarled oak, heavy enough to swing. The men grappled, Theodore's larger frame grappling the thug's arm, twisting until the knife skittered across stones. A punch landed, Theodore's jaw snapping back, blood blooming on his lip. Amelia swung the branch, cracking it against the brute's knee with a sickening thud. He howled, crumpling, but not before his fist grazed her arm, bruising deep. Gasps echoed from nearby strollers. A watchman blew his whistle, shrill in the fog. The brute scrambled up, limping into shadows, vanishing like smoke. Theodore straightened, wiping blood with his sleeve, his blue eyes fierce on hers. "You all right?" He touched her cheek, thumb gentle on the rising welt. She nodded, adrenaline thrumming, the indignation coiling into resolve. "Beaumont's End. Tonight." They hurried to the brownstone, the watchman's lantern bobbing behind. Inside, Mrs. Finley bolted the door, fetching bandages and brandy. Eleanor arrived soon after, cane thumping urgently, her face thunderous. "That devil! I've contacts, reporters who owe me. We'll expose him." Dawn broke with frantic purpose, Amelia, arm throbbing but unbowed, dressed in a simple serge walking dress, the locket's secrets now her arsenal. Theodore, lip swollen but gaze unwavering, accompanied her to Mr. Grant's office. The lawyer, spectacles askew, pored over the pilfered ledger pages by gaslight. "Beaumont's forgery, clear as day. Debts fabricated to seize Thorne's lines. Leak this to the Times, and his empire crumbles. But Thorne, he'll take the hit too." "Let him," Amelia said, voice like tempered iron. Elias's desperation at the pier, his plea for partnership, it rang hollow now, tainted by Beaumont's shadow. No more chains. Grant nodded, dispatching a clerk with the evidence. Anonymous, ironclad. By noon the streets buzzed, newsboys hawked extras. Banker scandal, forged bonds exposed. Beaumont's name scorched the headlines, his Boston facade shattering like cheap glass. Elias arrived at the brownstone unannounced, pounding the knocker like Judgment Day. Hargrove had vanished with the mansion staff, loyalty fracturing. Amelia met him in the parlour, Theodore at her side, Eleanor flanking like sentinels. Elias looked wrecked, coat rumpled, eyes hollow, the Tycoon's polish stripped raw. "Amelia, you did this?" His voice broke, not accusation, but defeat. She stood tall, the pearl brooch catching sunlight through lace curtains. "Not destruction, justice. Beaumont poisoned us all. Your debts, the threats. Lila's child deserves better than his rot." Elias sank into a chair, head in hands. "I see it now. Traded gold for fool's fire. The boys. They'll need you. Me, perhaps, if I rebuild from ashes." Pity stirred, faint as a whisper, but euphoria crested. Freedom. Hard won. No accusations against her, no courts, just the unraveling of lies she'd never sown. Lila, heavy with child, had fled to her family's estate, whispers saying she'd seek divorce once the babe arrived. Elias nodded, signing over the full settlement, 25,000 up front, the Eastern shares intact. For you, for them. He rose, gaze lingering on Theodore's steady presence, a flicker of regret. Treat her right. She's steel wrapped in silk. The door closed behind him, the mansion to be sold, his empire halved but salvageable. Afternoon brought triumph's roar. At the auxiliary rally in Mrs. Langford's salon, packed with reformers and investors, Amelia took the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, our havens rise. Chelsea lots secured, ground broken next week. Safe roofs for working women, built on truth, not shadows. Cheers erupted, pledges doubling. Theodore's hand found hers amid the applause, squeezing with shared pride. Their first public victory, his whisper warm against her ear. We did this. New York spoke her name, from society pages to tenement whispers. The boarding houses became beacons, Amelia's vision etched in brick and hope. Elias faded to quiet deals, Beaumont ruined, fleeing to Europe in disgrace. No prisons for any, just the natural fall of greed. Evening fell golden, Theodore escorting her to Central Park. They walked paths lined with budding crocuses, hands linked openly now, the slow-built romance blooming full. No more shadows, he said, stopping under a gas lamp's glow. His lips brushed hers, gentle, promising eternity. She leaned in, heart soaring, the cities hum a symphony to their quiet vow. If you're rooting for Amelia's hard-fought win, hit that like button now. It fuels more tales like this. And with her triumph echoing through New York, subscribe to catch every twist in the stories ahead. The Gilded Age's fires forge legends, and hers burns brightest. 10 years had woven their subtle threads through the fabric of Amelia's life, turning the raw edges of struggle into a tapestry of quiet triumph. It was 1888 now, and the brownstone on Gramercy Park stood as a sentinel of her ascent, its facade refreshed with fresh paint and climbing ivy that whispered of endurance. No longer just a refuge, it had become the heart of her expanding empire, a network of boarding houses that dotted Chelsea and the garment district like sturdy oaks in a shifting urban forest. Women from factories and offices found sanctuary there, clean rooms with iron beds, communal kitchens alive with the scent of fresh bread, and evening classes where they learned to tally wages or mend their own futures. Amelia, at 42, moved through these halls with the grace of a woman who had stared down tempests and emerged forged anew. Her chestnut hair, streaked with silver like moonlight on river waves, was pinned in a simple chignon, and her figure, softened by time and contentment, filled a modest gown of deep burgundy wool. Its high collar, a nod to the era's decorum, but laced with the freedom of her own design. Theodore Hale had been her constant, their bond ripening slow as autumn wine. 5 years after that fateful night in the park, they had married in a simple ceremony at the auxiliary salon, surrounded by the women whose lives Amelia had touched. No grand cathedral, just vows exchanged under gaslight chandeliers with Henry and little Theodore, now young men of 17 and 13, standing as witnesses, their faces alight with the pride of sons who had watched their mother rebuild from ruins. Theodore, ever the steady anchor, had brought his real estate savvy to her vision, turning vacant lots into thriving havens. His own losses had taught him the value of hearth and home. Together, they had welcomed 2 children of their own, a daughter Clara, named for his late wife, now 5 and full of her father's blue-eyed curiosity, and a son, Elias. After the man who had shaped Amelia's fire without claiming it, 3 years old, with his mother's determined chin. Mornings in the brownstone unfolded like a well-rehearsed symphony. Amelia rose with the dawn, the Hudson's light filtering through lace curtains to paint the parlor in soft golds. Mrs. Finley, grey-haired now, but no less steadfast, bustled in the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour from biscuits rising in the oven. "The little ones are up, ma'am," she would say, her voice warm as the steam from the teapot. Clara scampered in first, pigtails bouncing, clutching a rag doll sewn from boarding-house scraps. "Mama, tell the story of the pier again, the bad man and the branch." Amelia laughed, scooping her up, the child's weight a joyful anchor against memories that still surfaced like river stones on a quiet shore. Theodore joined them from his study, where maps of new properties, expansions into Brooklyn's growing wards, lay spread like promises. At 50, his sandy hair had thinned to silver wings at the temples, and fine lines etched his face from years of brokering deals amid the city's relentless churn. But his eyes held the same clear blue, deepened by love's steady gaze. He bent to kiss Amelia's forehead, his hand lingering on her shoulder, a touch that spoke volumes without words. "The auxiliary's letter came," he murmured over coffee, black and strong from Virginia beans. "Another pledge for the Brooklyn house. Your name echoes farther than ever." She smiled, tracing the rim of her cup. New York had indeed spoken of her triumph. Society pages once whispered of scandal now chronicled her reforms. Amelia Whittaker Hale, pioneer of women's cooperatives, her boarding houses a model emulated from Boston to Chicago. The Gilded Age's excesses had mellowed into progress's hum, elevated trains snaking higher, electric lights flickering in trial runs uptown. But Amelia's work grounded it all in human scale. No more watchers in the shadows. The brute from that night had vanished into Beaumont's downfall. The banker ruined and exiled to faded estates in France, his forged debts exposed in trials that spared Elias the noose, but stripped his empire bare. Elias. The thought of him brought a pang, nostalgic and bittersweet. He had paid the steepest price, retreating to a modest ranch in the Dakotas. His railroads halved and sold to sharper men. Lila had borne their daughter in secrecy, then divorced him quietly, taking the child to Boston's old money circles. Elias wrote sporadically, letters to the boys, stiff with regret, enclosing checks for their educations at Yale and Princeton. Henry, now a railroad engineer with his father's ambition, but his mother's ethics, visited occasionally, bringing tales of Western lines built clean. Little Theodore, studying law in Philadelphia, mirrored Amelia's resolve, his letters filled with dreams of justice for the working man. Elias himself had softened, his last missive confessing, "You were the steel in my spine, Amelia. I bent it wrong." No reconciliation but forgiveness had come, quiet as falling leaves. Afternoons often found Amelia at the original Chelsea house, overseeing expansions. The air hummed with hammers and laughter, seamstresses sharing stories over lunch, clerks debating suffrage pamphlets. One resident, a young widow named Rose, reminded her of her younger self, fierce eyes, hands calloused from typewriters. "You gave me a start, ma'am," Rose said one crisp fall day as they walked the sunlit courtyard. "Without your roof, I'd be lost." Amelia nodded, emotions swelling. These women were her legacy, threads in the web she'd spun from betrayal's ashes. Evenings brought the family together, Theodore reading aloud from Dickens by the hearth's glow, Clara curled in Amelia's lap, little Elias building block towers that toppled with gleeful crashes. Laughter filled the rooms, light and unburdened. The love between Amelia and Theodore, a constant undercurrent. Stolen glances over supper, hands brushing in the garden under starlit skies. It had endured this romance born of shared battles, deepening into a partnership that mirrored the era's quiet shifts toward equality. Yet nostalgia tugged in quiet moments. Amelia kept the locket in a velvet-lined drawer, its miniature faded but cherished. It symbolized the fire that had forged her, not destroyed, but refined. As winter's first snow dusted the park outside, she stood at the window, Theodore's arm around her waist. "We've built well," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. She leaned into him, heart full. And it stands. Near New York's spires pierce the night, a city forever changed by one woman's rise. Triumph wasn't fleeting glory, but this, roots deep, branches wide, love's quiet roar echoing through the years. As the snowflakes danced beyond the window like fragile memories settling into place, Amelia turned from the vista of Gramercy Park, her hand still entwined with Theodore's. The room wrapped around them in a cocoon of warmth, crackling fire, the faint scent of pine from a holiday wreath, and the distant laughter of their children echoing from the nursery. 10 years had not erased the scars, but they had gilded them, turning raw edges into stories of resilience that she now shared in quiet evenings with the women of her boarding houses. Life's tempests forge us, she would say, her voice steady as the Hudson's flow, but it's the choices after the storm that define the horizon. In those gatherings, under gaslights that had given way to the first flickers of electric wonder uptown, Amelia drew lessons from her path like threads from a well-worn tapestry. Betrayal, she taught, was not the end, but a forge, hot, unyielding, shaping strength where weakness once hid. Elias's shadow had taught her that ambition without heart crumbles like autumn leaves underfoot, while alliances built on mutual fire endure like the city's iron bridges spanning restless waters. And love? It bloomed not in grand gestures or youthful sparks, but in the quiet solidarity of shared burdens, the way Theodore's hand had steadied hers through nights of doubt and days of building. "Rise not in vengeance," she urged the young seamstresses and clerks huddled close, their faces lit with budding hope, but in purpose. Claim your space in this glittering maze, one brick at a time. New York had evolved around her triumphs, its spires reaching higher, its streets buzzing with the hum of progress, elevated trains screeching overhead, news of women's suffrage marches rippling from parlors to factories. Amelia's havens had multiplied, a dozen now, each a beacon for daughters of the era who refused to fade into the wallpaper of men's worlds. Henry engineered safer rails in the West, free of his father's shady deals. Young Theodore argued cases for laborers in Philadelphia courts, his briefs echoing her fight for fairness. Even Elias, from his Dakota's ranch, sent word of quiet redemption, tending land he'd once exploited, raising Lila's daughter with a gentleness time had carved into him. No one had fallen to chains or courts. Justice had come through exposure and choice, the Gilded Age's excesses yielding to a dawn of measured light. Yet in the hush of night, as Theodore drew her close on the settee, their whispers weaving dreams of further expansions, a cooperative in Brooklyn perhaps, with rooms for suffragettes plotting the vote, Amelia felt the full weight of her journey. Triumph was no solitary crown, but a shared flame passed hand to hand, warming the cold edges of a world still learning to bend. She had risen, not to eclipse the past, but to illuminate paths for those trailing behind. And in that light, her heart found peace, enduring as the river that carved canyons through stone. What did you think of Amelia's unyielding spirit, her slow-burning romance, and the justice that echoed through New York's streets? Drop a comment below, share your favorite moment, or how her story stirred something in you. To let me know you made it to this heartfelt close and help spread these tales of resilience, write the word triumph in your comment. It means the world and fuels more epic journeys like this one. Don't forget to check out the cards for similar Gilded Age romances, stories of love conquering greed, where everyday heroes claim their destiny. Hit play and let's keep the inspiration flowing.